Hey there, recently we tackled a Fiverr motion design challenge to create the best logo animation, and you all went wild in the comments asking for a breakdown on how we did our logo animation. Well, ask and you shall receive. Today we're diving into the juicy details. Oh, and by the way, the project files are linked down below if you want to follow along and poke around yourself. Let's get into it. We are starting with a fresh composition. Now I need a solid background to start with. Press Ctrl Y to add a solid layer. This will act as our first base layer. Let's make it a bit more fancy by adding a gradient ramp effect. I'm setting the ramp to radial with dark purple on the edges and light purple in the center for our branded look. Feel free to pick your own colors, this is your creation. Next, I'm importing a music track. If you're using one too, drag it into your timeline. Then we press L to reveal the waveform. As I listen to the beats, I'll mark key moments by pressing the asterisk key on my keyboard. These markers will make the timing of our animations super easy. For the first animation, I'm using 3 elements. Let's call them keyframe assets. These could be shapes, icons, or whatever fits your logo theme. I'll animate each one to pop up on a beat. Here's how. I place the first asset in the center of my composition. I select it, hit P, R and S to enable the animations for these properties. Then add keyframes at the position where you want the motion to end. Now go back a few frames, 5 or 6 is good, and set the starting keyframes. Move the asset slightly off screen, rotate a little and scale it to 0%. This creates a nice motion where the asset falls into place while rotating. Oh wait, it's still looking a little bit stiff. But wait, it gets better. Add some elastic motion for that pro touch. I'm using the Mobar plugin for this, check in description below for a link, and elasticity makes everything looks buttery smooth. Now repeat this process for another 2 assets, but change their starting positions. Maybe one comes from the left and one comes from the right. Stagger the animations so each starts on a different beat. And boom! The first part of the animation is done. Now let's transition to part 2 with a fun cursor click animation. For this I'm introducing a cursor asset. Place the cursor off screen and animate its position property to move in a small arc towards the first keyframe asset. At the end of its path, add a clicking motion. Scale the cursor up slightly and then down to 0 to mimic a click. At the moment of the click, I'm introducing a 3D keyframe element. First import your Illustrator file. Position it, then right click on the layer and choose Create shapes from vector layer. This converts your Illustrator file into a shape layer. Now let's add some depth to this keyframe. Make sure your composition renderer is set to advanced 3D. You can check this in the composition settings under renderer.
Now make your new shape layer a 3D layer.
Open the geometry options for your shape layer and increase the extrusion depth. Boom! Instant 3D. Animate the 3D keyframe. Add keyframes for the scale, position and rotation. Scale it from 0 to full size. Slightly move it towards the camera on the Z axis and add a gentle rotation on the X and Y axis. Sync this all to the beat, just like we do for our out animation of the 3D keyframe, which is a simple scale to 0 animation on the next music beat. Finally, to make it shine, add a 3-point lighting. Use a bright pink light, a blue light and a soft neutral light to create a cinematic neon glow. It's already starting to look fire, but we're not done yet. We still need to discuss the dancing lines, but first let's have a talk about something very important. Life-saving important, in fact. And of course I'm speaking about the Storyblocks plugin. You can access a ton of creative templates without leaving After Effects. This saves you hours of time. You can download unlimited stock assets. All you need to do is click the download button and boom, your clips will appear in the project panel. Imagine you shoot a clip where you needed some post-tracking. You fly all the way home just to realize your shot was out of focus and basically untrackable. Yeah, you should have used Storyblocks. Storyblocks' curated stock library has everything you need to create high quality video in one place. With over 1 million 4K and HD footage, templates, music, sound effects, images and much more. You can download unlimited high quality assets for one predictable subscription cost. You can say goodbye to expensive pay-per-clip pricing. You will enhance your social media videos by accessing exclusive Storyblock label music tracks directly in TikTok, Instagram, Facebook and YouTube. And at the meantime, Storyblocks will fully protect you from copyright strikes, claims and all that stuff. So you can focus on what matters most. Creating. Besides that, you can save hours of your time with pre-made motion graphic templates for After Effects, Premiere Pro, Apple Motion and DaVinci Resolve. To get started with unlimited stock media downloads at one set price, head over to storyblocks.com/After Effects Basics or click the link in the description below.
Okay, let's keep on swinging with those dancing lines. Now, I'm only explaining one, as the other one is completely the same principle. So, take the pen tool and draw an S-curve path. Apply the trim paths effect to animate the line from left to right. You can use the Mobar tool for a one-click solution or do it manually. Go to your shape layer and open up the properties. Here look for the Add tab on the right side and click on the drop-down arrow. Now look for trim path effect, and now it's just a matter of animating the start or the end. It really depends to which way you want your line to move. I want mine to move from left to right, so I set the end value and start value to 0. Then I animate the start value to 100, revealing the line. To make it dance, enable path animation and tweak the levers on the path to match the music. It's subtle, but it makes a huge difference. And to emphasize this motion, I also added fake levers to the animation, but those are only rotation lines, nothing too crazy. Of course, don't forget to make the line disappear. I used a reverse trim path animation for this, which you can easily do by copy and pasting the first trim path keyframes, then reversing them by right-clicking on them and going to Keyframe Assistant and choosing Time Reverse Keyframes. Easy peasy. Alright, now for the grand finale, our very own logo animation. First, let's bring in our logo. I've imported all the individual layers into my timeline. Rectangles, a timeline marker, and some text. Once everything's in my composition, I start positioning them exactly how I want my final logo to look. Now, here's a super handy trick. If you scale your logo right now, it might look all wonky because each layer scales individually. So let's fix that by using a control layer. Select all the layers except one. Any one is fine. Then use the pick whip tool. You know, this little spiral icon to parent all the selected layers to the one unselected layer. That's now your control layer. When you scale it up or down, everything stays perfectly proportional. Once you're happy with the size, just unparent the layers by setting their parent option back to none. Boom! Everything's scaled and ready to go. Alright, now let's start animating. Before I do anything, I create a scale, position, and rotation keyframe for every logo layer I have and place the keyframes to the side. I do this so I save my end frame. Then I start with the rectangle in my logo. These will slide into the frame. First, move each rectangle off screen. Place one above the frame, another below it, and the last one to the left. Cool. Now go to their rotation property and give each one a slight tilt. Just a few degrees will do. It's all about making the movement feel live. Then 10 keyframes further in time, I drag the end keyframes back in, and voila, the 3 rectangles are animated. As an extra sauce, I again give it that elastic motion with the Mobar tool. Let's move on to the timeline marker. This is the element that'll really tie everything together. Start by positioning it off screen, above the frame. Then just like with the rectangles, move forward in your timeline, about 10 frames, and then drop it into its final position. To make it a bit more fun, again add a slight elastic motion. Now for the cool part, the text reveal. I'm not animating the text, but I'm gonna reveal it with the timeline marker. So I animate the marker to move it to the right and then back into the original place. Once that's done, I create a rectangle shaped layer big enough to cover the text. Position it so it's completely hiding the text at the start of the animation. Then use the pick whip tool to parent the rectangle to the timeline marker. This makes sure the rectangle moves perfectly in sync with the marker. Next, go to the text layer track math option and parent it to the shape layer. This will make the text visible only when it's inside the rectangle. Magic, right? Lastly, shorten the text layer so it appears as soon as the marker moves back to its original position. Looking good, but let's add some flair with an echo effect. Duplicate the timeline marker layer, just hit Ctrl+D or Command+D on a Mac on the duplicate layer, and then apply the echo effect. Adjust these settings to make it shine. Lower the echo time, increase the number of echoes, and lower the decay. Oh, and set the echo operator to add. To finish it off, slap on a fill effect. Pick a vibrant color and animate the color to change as the marker moves. Play it back and it should look like the marker is leaving a colorful glowing trail behind it. If you're curious about how I fine-tuned my keyframes, click the video right here on my left. Thank you guys so much for watching.